Today's video is titled Talk to a Hobbyist, Jamie the board game collector. In this video, I'll be talking with Jamie, an adult woman who collects board games. I came up with the idea for this series because I genuinely believe there's a lot we can learn from asking people why they do the things they love. What does a hobby give us? Why does it matter? Even the way a hobby first enters someone's life can carry its own significance. I also think that focusing on each other, giving someone our attention, and taking an interest in what matters to them, even when our interests are starkly different, allows us to understand one another better. And I think that is something the world could use right now. More connection, more curiosity, more sharing. And maybe this video will even solve a few of those issues. Just kidding. I have no illusions that this video has such a grand scope, but the heart of that idea still rings true for me. So thank you for stopping by to spend some time with me and Jamie. This video was a lot of fun to create, and of course, please be kind about the editing. I'm still learning. What is your advice that you would say to new board game collectors?
Don't just buy just to buy. Like, don't try to not be a part of what they call a cult of the new, where you're just trying to buy everything that's all new, shiny, fancy, everybody's talking about it. Find a theme or like quality components, like something that interests you, and try to go towards that. And I would say don't just buy it to buy it. Like, research it. Try to play it beforehand before you buy it.
Okay, so research before you buy.
Yeah. That way you don't end up disappointed. You don't spend money you don't want to. Like, plus, board games take up a lot of space. There's probably something you want to just collect for collectors' sakes. Like, there are people out there that will collect just for that. But really, like, play board games to play board games. If you like the game, then buy it.
Okay. What is your relationship with selling your board games? Is that something you do? Is that something you have done? And if so, why? Or why not?
I haven't sold any board games. I've donated games that, like, when I had to move that were excess, like things that I didn't play anymore. But currently, I would, if I got a game that I didn't like or lost interest in, sure, I would sell it. I keep a list of, like, in my brain, I guess I have a list of games that are lower on my must keep list. As it is, my collection is where I want it to be. I really like all the games that I currently have, but there are games that in my collection that I would let go before others.
What is the one you would let go, and like what is the one that you would never sell?
There's a fairly large list of ones I would never sell. But I think I would start letting go of, like, the more mainstream games, like copies of Monopoly. I might let the Labyrinth board game go. That's mostly a nostalgic type game. One specific example was a game that I had when I was a kid called Pipeline. It was like a 4-player, 2 to 4 player game where you're trying to get to opposite sides of the board with your pipe, and you could block everybody off, and you had to, like, maze your way through them. It was really fun. It was a nice puzzle type game. And I recently was reminded of it watching a YouTube video. Somebody had mentioned that it was a great game and that they really liked it, and it brought up the pain of letting it go again.
So what game or gaming experience made you realize that board game collecting is important to you?
Being exposed to different board games from, like, my aunt. Whenever we would have family get-togethers, they would bring all of these unique games that you would, like, have never heard of, that came from actual hobbyist stores, as opposed to, like, Walmart or Target or what have you, just big box name stores. And it made me realize that there is a much wider world in board gaming. And like, I have always sought after unique experiences afterwards, and I collect the games that I have the most fun playing. Like, another one would be like playing Betrayal at House on the Hill. Buying that game is what started my current collection. That and Pandemic. Soon after bought Dead of Winter. Like, just started gradually growing collection with popular within the community games.
Yeah.
And like it's just grown from there.
So you and I both know about this because we've talked about this quite a few times in the past. But for listeners, could you tell me kind of what is your relationship with board games and how that intersects with your family? Obviously, not going into anything too personal, but I don't know if I have to say that, but not going into anything that would make you uncomfortable, but just how has that relationship with your family shaped your love of board games?
But it helps that I come from a family that really liked board games. That goes to an extended family level. Like at family get-togethers, they would sit down and play like Chinese checkers or play Clue, or they would play like these like popular games that are known now, like Monopoly and things like that. And as I started to grow up, my parents started to give me like more unique type games, and also gifted them to my siblings, and we all just kind of grew up with a love of the hobby together. Like my sister and I currently will play games over the phone because we live so far apart. Like we have found ways to play games with each other without having to be at the same table.
How has technology changed the way you engage with board games? I'm thinking about things like virtual board games, online platforms, or mobile apps that accompany physical games. Do these tools expand the experience, make games more accessible, or change something about what makes board gaming meaningful to you? I know that's a lot to unpack there, so start wherever you feel comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is kind of complex because it's yes and it's no, and it's also sort of. Yes, in the fact that it becomes more approachable for other people who are not necessarily in the hobby. Like if you're on your PC and you're browsing the Steam store and you say, oh, well, here is a game called Scythe. I've never heard of it before, and like looks like it's a tabletop game that's on like been made into a video game, and it has that opportunity to introduce itself that way. But there's also really bad implementations of board games that have gone into video games. None that I can think of come to mind at the moment, but there are a lot that are out there that just don't portray the game the way that you would experience it sitting down at the table and playing it. And on the flip side, sometimes the virtual version of the game is easier to play than the actual sit-down tabletop game. Years and years ago, I played I played Carcassonne for the first time. And Carcassonne is a great game to sit down and play it, but the app made it a lot easier to manage because you were just placing the tiles like on the actual screen, like point and click, and it would keep track of the scores for you. And one of the things about early versions of Carcassonne is that scoring, especially like when you're scoring like the farms in it, can be complex. And if somebody doesn't have a firm grasp of the rules, it can make for a long experience at the end of the game when everybody's just trying to calculate their scores. So the app was able to elevate that experience. And the developers of Carcassonne, as years have gone on, as it's changed hands, like from Days of Wonder to Z-Man, who now owns the game, they've updated the rules for how things are scored. And depending on the version you played, will depend on what's listed in the rules. But they've made it a lot more streamlined because people have made this complaint, and a lot of it came through this digital app. And as far as like app, like games that require an app to play, like Mansions of Madness, for instance, it can be an elevating experience. With Mansions of Madness is a very thematic game and requires very atmosphere dependent. And the app is able to keep track of things. It can introduce like monsters and events that is really hard to do with just a person. First edition was all about one person being the keeper playing against the investigators. And it could be a really clunky experience if you had somebody who was like, the keeper missed something throughout, or if they played a rule wrong, it could ruin and take everybody out of the experience. Mm-hmm. So in that way, second edition with the app made the game more engaging. Yeah. And it also turned it into a collaborative experience, which some people like, other people don't. But overall, I feel like the digital apps and games only serve to enhance the hobby, and it helps get more people into it. So I feel it as an overall positive. There are obviously exceptions and stipulations with that, but overall it's positive.
How do the people you play with shape your relationship with the hobby? What changes when a game moves from being an object in your collection to a shared experience with other players in the room?
So having the group come together and decide on a game that we're playing can kind of help put everybody into a certain headspace. Especially if you're playing a complicated game, let's say Root, where everything is super asymmetrical and you're not playing with the same rule set. Everybody has their own secret, certain objectives that you're trying to do, and nothing, everybody's turns look completely different from everybody else. So having that mindset has kind of brings the group together in a way, and it really can enrich the experience if everybody's coming to the table with the goal that we're going to sit down and we're going to play this game. We're all on the same page. It can really enhance the experience. It can also help change, develop relationships with those people, because you're all sitting there and you're going through an experience together, and you're all sitting down playing a game, and throughout it you're all sitting there playing the game, but it also opens up the air to start talking about other things. It kind of naturally allows you to develop relationships and friendships with the people that you're playing with.
Now that we've had a chance to ask questions and get some wonderful answers out of it, I'm curious how you feel about hobbies themselves and board gaming as a hobby. It's obviously something you love and are passionate about, and it's affected and impacted your life. What would you be like without it? Or just feel free to kind of take either of those questions and run with it.
Yeah. So first thoughts are hobbies are a way to help fill spare time. Some of us are busier than others. So everybody has their own different way of approaching it. But for me, being single, I have quite a bit of free time. So a lot of it is spent with my hobbies. And I feel like without them, my spare time would be incredibly boring. There would be there's a certain fulfillment that I get from board games and like Lego and crafting and all of reading, all of these other different things that I do. Um, but with like board games specifically, it's the hobby allows me to kind of escape for a minute when I'm playing through whatever game it may be. And like really overall it's enriched my life. It's also like introduced me to new people and different spaces that I would have otherwise not been a part of. So like it's definitely like changed my life where in ways that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's been an overall positive change like to have. And like while board gaming isn't for everybody, like it's such a broad thing that I feel like like there's something for almost everybody in the hobby. It's just a matter of being able to find something that works for you and finding the right people to enjoy it with. Uh,
What do you think about stereotypes or assumptions that people make about board games and the collectors themselves?
um, I think that there is a stereotype of board gamers being kind of nerds. Um, I'm deep into the community, so I don't have super outside perspective of it, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. Is like people who play board games are just they're nerds. Um, that quote unquote normal people are like don't play board games, and if they do play board games, they're playing something like Monopoly or like Sorry or Clue, like one of these generic big box store games. And people who are playing like more complicated games are just like kind of weirdos to to say. Um, but I think it's becoming a little bit more accepted. I think the hobby is becoming a lot more broad and are accepting more people, especially with COVID, where it forced everybody inside and people were left with nothing to do. So a lot of people tried playing board games, and it's like it helped grow the community. But with that growth, there's also brought in some toxicity. So you have a lot of judgmental people, like judging other people's like choice of games, the things that they enjoy. There are a lot of strong opinions out there, and the negative opinions tend to speak a lot louder. So, like, I feel like that's kind of the stereotype, and there's also stereotypes between people who are doing more complicated, like long play games like Memoir 44 or Twilight Imperium, or people who are playing like intense TTRPGs such as like Warhammer and other things in that realm. Like they're people tend to group people who play games that are more complicated into that group, which tends to have a harsher stereotype against those people. Like those people are the people that like that's all they do, that's all they think about. And like there's nothing wrong with that, but there tends to be harsher criticism towards those people. Um I myself don't mind being stereotyped into that category because I very much see myself there. Like that's just who I am. But other people don't, I can see not really enjoying being stereotyped. And so in that way, it can be a hindrance to people getting into it, even though they might enjoy it. Some people might have a hard time admitting that that's something that they enjoy and are just not allowing themselves to enjoy the hobby. So, like, it's not necessarily a clean ending, but. Like,
Oh no, that's a good answer. That was great.
Hi, welcome to the end of the video. I'm taking a moment here to reflect on how this process has impacted myself and hearing some of Jamie's wonderful answers and how they connected to just bigger topics than you might have even realized. Talking with Jamie helped me realize just how personal board game collecting can be, because a collection reflects the sensibilities of its collector, the way their mind works, what captures their curiosity, and what kind of experiences feel meaningful to them. It also made me think about how appealing certain hobbies can look from the outside. I like the idea of having a board game collection, but I realize that it does not mean the same thing to me. I'm not deeply intrigued by every individual game I own. A lot of them represent games I keep telling myself I will eventually make time to play. And maybe there is a soft lesson in that about overconsumption. Not every interest has to become a collection, and not every appealing version of a life is one we need to build for ourselves. Maybe some of us do not need more board games. Maybe we need more opportunities to gather around the games that already exist. I was also struck by the way Jamie's interest connected to how her mind works. She gravitates towards complex systems, learning new rules, discovering patterns, and sharing those experiences with other people. And as someone with ADD, I can recognize that our minds may seek stimulation, structure, and connection in different ways. Her collection is not simply a shelf of objects. It reflects the kinds of challenges and experiences that feel rewarding to her. And this conversation reminded me that taking a genuine interest in another person requires a little generosity. You have to be willing to enter a world you may not naturally gravitate toward and try to understand why it matters to them. Board games mean a lot to Jamie, and that alone makes them worth understanding. I mean, maybe the point was never just the games themselves. Maybe it was always about what happens when people gather around them. Perhaps. Well, anyway, those are just some of my musings on the topic, but I had a genuinely great experience doing this video, and I do intend it to be a series, so hopefully people will see more Talk to a Hobbyist videos coming out. And again, just thank you for spending the time.